Hi, welcome to Curiosity. I'm Gary J, your host, and today I thought I'd ask the question, are we being visited by aliens?
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
If you look on YouTube, you'll see thousands of videos of strange lights and objects in the skies around the world. Some claim that these are beings from other planets and solar systems visiting the Earth in ships that humans don't yet have the technology to make, and that couldn't even pilot them if we did, simply because of the G-force generated by such crafts. But some say that the US government have managed to back-engineer at least some of the technology from the Roswell crash in 1947, which in turn gave us aircraft like the Blackbird, the Stealth Fighter, and the F-22 Raptor. And most of this has taken place in one of the world's most famous classified air bases in the world, Area 51 in Nevada. Now, even though Area 51 was first built by the US in 1942, it wasn't until 1955 that it became a test site that has been shrouded by mystery ever since. And, coupled together with its strange location, massive perimeter, strange lights in the sky above the base, and the use of deadly force if anyone's caught on there, it's been the content of many conspiracy story, book, or film. Well, this all sounds very exciting, and to some extent very plausible. But just how true is all this UFO business? Well, for me, I'm not altogether convinced everything that what we're seeing in the sky is extraterrestrial, even if there are videos of the whole thing on YouTube. You see, technology has now given us the ability to fake almost anything in both video and photos by software editing packages like Adobe After Effects, Maya, Blender, or even Photoshop. And people who are skillful enough can make anything look real using this software. Now, you only need to look at today's films to see what I mean, because most of what you actually see on the cinema is not actually there and is put in later on in the editing process. And that means everything from buildings to armies, aircraft to UFOs, and even monsters. So, could this be what is happening on YouTube? Well, maybe. But at the same time, surely every single video isn't a hoax, and some might actually be things that have just been misidentified, and are really just aircraft, both commercial and secret test projects. But what if some are that of alien nature? Well, we've seen everything from dish-shaped UFOs to triangle-shaped, cigar-shaped, and even balls of light. So if there are so many shapes, does this mean that we have different aliens visiting us? And if so, why?
You're listening to the Curiosity podcast.
Okay, let's say for argument's sake that there are numerous different aliens visiting us. The odds are at least one of these species is going to be, let's say, not so friendly. Well, if that's the case, why would these aliens not try and take over? As a matter of fact, why wouldn't any of them try and take over the world? Because just by looking at history, the more advanced culture will always dominate the less advanced culture. I mean, imagine if we actually found a Bigfoot and then found out where its family actually lived. You can guarantee the moment we did, those creatures will be hunted, captured, studied, operated on, and maybe in some cases domesticated or put in a zoo. And that's just because we're the more advanced species of the two. I mean, that's just the law of the jungle, we all know that. But yet it's claimed we have aliens visiting Earth from God knows where, using God knows what technology that we are nowhere near achieving, and we're still allowed to go along with our little lives without any real issues. I just find it all a bit strange, to be honest.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
But yet there are still people claiming to have been abducted, taken up in spaceships, operated on, and in some cases sexually assaulted. But for what purpose? Surely after you've probed a couple of humans, you've learned everything that you need to know, especially after 50 or so years since Roswell. But people are still out there claiming to have been abducted with no real evidence except a story. I mean, this is the other thing. Every time I see a UFO documentary, it's always the same thing. Some story from years ago with some old American guy wearing a leather flight jacket with badges all over it with USAF on them, and then claiming to have worked at Area 51 when he was in his 20s. And then the TV show seems to show a black and white photograph of a guy in an army uniform, which may or may not have even been him, and then he goes on to say that he's seen alien technology, and in some cases even aliens themselves. Well, that's all great, but it's not evidence, it's hearsay if anything, and it's just some guy claiming to have worked at a top secret facility that no one can get anywhere near because it's bloody top secret. That's like me saying that in 1989 I was working as an undercover agent in the UK for a top secret mission for MI6 in Manchester. Yes, I would be totally lying, but it would be hard to disprove because it's top secret. No one would verify it. And even if the government said I was lying, I could then say it's just them trying to distance themselves from it all. These old guys' stories could be as fake as hell, and no one will be able to disprove it. So other than stories of abductions, aliens and UFOs, and video of things in the sky that are so far away it could be anything, what else have we actually got? Well, technically nothing. We have no hard evidence that we're being visited by aliens. We have no bodies that have been 100% confirmed as aliens, no ships, no weapons, no food, no clothing, or even technology that we can prove as extraterrestrial. Now, I know there's going to be people out there saying, well, what about the cave drawings on the temples and all that lot, all that stuff? Well, some of those have known to have been faked by people messing around in Photoshop. I actually told you that at the beginning. However, some of them could just be anything. I mean, just because a drawing on a cave has what looks like to be a man wearing a space helmet on it, that doesn't actually mean that's what it actually was. It could have been some sort of headdress that was drawn at the time when art was in its infancy, and at the best often looked like a 5-year-old had drew it. Plus, who is to say that this drawing just didn't come out of an early human's imagination? Because let's say in 2,000 years, for instance, a human from the future finds a book by James Cameron. Would they then think that aliens were real? Would they think that's what they actually look like? Remember, a lot of what happens will now be lost in time. So just because there's a drawing of something, it doesn't mean that that's fact. Something else that we should be asking is, are there other human beings on other planets in the universe? Well, I'd almost stake my life on it. Surely they just can't be us. I mean, what would be the point? The universe is just too big for it just to be us. But are we being visited by those aliens? Well, without any hard physical proof like a UFO landing in a large city for everyone to see and an alien actually walking out of it, then I'm struggling to say yes. But at the same time, I can't say I would actually be totally surprised if we were. So I'm sort of sitting on the fence on this one. I'm not 100% convinced either way. But what are your thoughts? Leave me a message and let me know. Thanks for listening. I'm Gary J. You've been listening to the Curiosity Podcast. And as always, remember to do something that scares you.
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.